It was nearing midnight in Los Angeles. The city, usually vibrant and alive, had taken on a quieter, more subdued mood. The neon signs of corner diners flickered, their soft glow spilling onto the empty sidewalks. Keanu Reeves, casually dressed in a black leather jacket, dark jeans, and scuffed boots, walked alone. He had just left an independent bookstore where he'd spent hours browsing for rare editions. The weight of the day lingered, and he welcomed the cool, crisp night air. He adjusted his jacket as he walked, his thoughts drifting. For Keanu, these late-night walks were a way to connect with the city, away from the flashing cameras and bustling crowds. As he turned a corner onto a quieter street, his gaze fell on a bus stop. Sitting alone on the bench was a young woman. Her posture caught his attention, her shoulders slumped, head resting in her hands. A small suitcase sat beside her, and despite the stillness of the scene, there was an air of distress around her. Keanu paused for a moment, debating whether to approach. The streets were nearly empty, and she looked vulnerable. Deciding to act, he walked closer, his footsteps soft against the pavement. "Hey," he said gently, keeping a respectful distance. "Are you okay?" The woman looked up, startled by his voice. Her tired eyes met his, and she seemed to hesitate, as if unsure whether to respond. Then recognition dawned on her face, but instead of reacting with excitement, she simply sighed. "I missed my bus," she said quietly. "The next one doesn't come until morning. I don't really have anywhere else to go right now." Keanu nodded, his expression softening. He noticed the worn edges of her suitcase and the way she held her arms tightly around herself, trying to keep warm. "Traveling alone?" he asked. "Yeah," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was visiting someone here, but things didn't go as planned. I'm trying to get back home to Arizona. It's been a rough couple of days." Keanu studied her for a moment, then took a step closer. "It's not safe out here this late. Let's figure something out." The woman looked at him, uncertain. "Why would you do that? You don't even know me." He smiled faintly. "Sometimes people just need a little help. Stay here for a second." Keanu pulled out his phone and made a quick call. Within minutes, a cab pulled up to the curb. He gestured toward the car. "Come on. We'll get you somewhere safe for the night." At first, she hesitated, glancing between him and the cab, but something in his calm demeanor reassured her. Gathering her suitcase, she followed him into the car. The ride was quiet but not uncomfortable. Keanu asked her about her journey, and she spoke hesitantly at first, then more freely. She told him about the job she had lost, the friend who had promised to help but couldn't, and the growing fear that she was running out of options. When they arrived at a modest but clean hotel, Keanu stepped out first, holding the door open for her. Inside the lobby, the warm lighting and soft murmur of background music seemed to ease some of her tension. Keanu approached the receptionist, ensuring a room was available. "I've got it covered," he said, sliding his card across the counter. The woman looked at him, her eyes wide with disbelief. "You don't have to do this." "I know," he said simply, "but I want to." Once her room was ready, Keanu handed her the key and a small envelope. "Here's enough for food and your bus ticket tomorrow. Take care of yourself, okay?" Her hands trembled slightly as she took the envelope. "I don't even know how to thank you." He smiled, his voice soft but firm. "You don't need to. Just pay it forward someday." The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight stretched across the city, she stood by the bus stop, waiting for her ride home. She held a small note in her hand with Keanu's name and number scribbled on it, a gesture he'd insisted on in case she needed more help. As she boarded the bus and took her seat, she glanced out the window, clutching the note tightly. What had started as a hopeless night had turned into an unforgettable encounter, a reminder that kindness could appear when least expected. and for Keanu Reeves, it was just another quiet moment of humanity, one that, like many others, he'd likely never mention. If you liked the video, subscribe and share with your friends. Have a nice day.